Gotta plug. Just put this aside so I don't spill. 5 Tribes is visible on YouTube. It should be visible on Facebook. Yeah. So many tags again. Oddly seen blade. Yeah, I get that. Because like once like a drag queen tags us in a video and then everybody shares the video and then we're still tagged in the shared tag, then it's like, Hopefully people don't think the show did not push through. But if you are there, please comment so we know you are watching. Monitors are running. Kenny has joined us. Yes, it's quite a late stream. Sorry, we had to eat. Andre has joined us. Dapat nung nagkaroon ng expansion, they should have renamed it 5 Tribes Plus 1. Well, in some ways, that is what happened. Yeah, but we'll get to that. And then no one else on Facebook for now. Yeah, I'm still sorry. Sharing linkies. Karen has joined us. Hey, Karen. You. Okay, I tweeting. Forgot to prepare the sharks. And the timer. Sharks do need preparation. And the tube guy. Well, we have to eat before the show because by the time the show's over, it's the end of our eating window. The challenges of life on IF. Timer is ready. Oops, no, it's not. 59 minutes. It's a chicken. Yeah. Yeah. Table still has food markings. Oh, only white here. Sorry. It's okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, no biggie. My Nike Training Club app tells me I've been working out for a year. I have earned the 1-year badge. I'm actually running out of badges to achieve on the Nike Training app. I'm left like working out on International Women's Day because workout apps, I guess, are female-oriented. And then the other few being early bird and night owl, which means I have to work out several times early in the morning and several times late at night. None of which I do, but it's just funny. So yeah, let's start. This is Toby. And this is Rocky. And if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy, a little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want. It is completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us, we talk about everything and anything random live. And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. Today, our episode is about... Do you guys watch Star Trek Discovery? That's not what our topic is about. Our episode's about 5 guys. But yeah, I have glasses that remind Rocky of the guy in Discovery. David Cronenberg. And it's not the face, it's just the glasses. And then ever since he first got him, I was like, I've been staring at it. Like, why? What am I thinking? But that's not what we're gonna talk about today. So, 5 Tribes, a game by Bruno Cathala, and it is a 2 to 4 player game where you move different meeples across a very modular board.
And through those movements, end up triggering actions depending on where you land and who you land with.
Yes.
Because different meeples means different abilities, and by maneuvering these different abilities, by moving around the board and claiming different areas, as well as by finding the different possible market items, one can then win the game with the highest score.
Andre immediately says that this is basically modern Sungka. And we totally agree with this. We end up calling this game Super Sungka
Yes.
when we introduce it to people because of the fact that the main play mechanism is very much like Sungka, or dare I say, Mancala, or other variants of the game. Because so first, Toby mentioned a modular board. The modular board is because it uses tiles to represent the spaces, and so you have tiles with like red numbers, tiles with blue numbers, tiles with white symbols in the corner, with a tree in the corner, with a village in the corner, all that fun stuff. And there will be meeples placed on each of the tiles at the beginning of the game. And like Sungka and related games, your main play mechanism is to pick up all the meeples from a particular tile and then start laying them out on other tiles one by one until you have no more left in your hand. And the last meeple you play must match one of the meeples on the tile you have placed it on, because then you will trigger things. The 5 tribes refer to the 5 colors of meeples in the base game. This is not a 5-player game. And this is a constant annoyance whenever we are having a game night and thinking, what game can we play that supports 5 players? And for some reason, you will first think 5 tribes, but no, it's a 4-player game.
So as mentioned, the Songka-like mechanic. If this were part of your board, you could pick up this group, but then that forces you to put down a piece on each tile as you move, making sure that the last one has someone of a matching color. In this case,
yellow.
2 yellow. Each of the tribe members has
Acrobats.
a specific power. The yellow figures are the viziers, who are worth a lot of points at the end of the game, as long as you were the one with the most viziers. You will get a point for each yellow meeple you have, plus 10 points for every player you have more yellow meeples. So if it was a 4-player game and you have the most meeples out of everyone, then that's at least 30 points immediately. But bear in mind, it's not a 30-point lead, because the second placer would still get 20 points for the persons behind him. And the third placer would still get...
You see, comments like that, like it's not a 30-point lead. That's how Toby sees the world, He's just mathing the victory points and trying to map out how much he needs to beat you by. The way he plays 5 tribes, which I
We're
guess
not at that point of the game yet.
has become the way I play 5 tribes. It's very mathematical. I'm just saying. Continue.
Another member of the tribe are the white figures.
The
and
elders.
The white figures are known as the elders. They're worth only 2 points per elder at the end of the game. But the true power of the elders is that they can be sacrificed.
Burn them!
When you land on specific land tiles, such as those, where you could see the it's not that visible.
There's a white meeple dude, and then another symbol for another white meeple, and the card formerly known as a slave. What are they called now? I forget.
I don't.
The expansion manual renamed them already, but in the original game they were slaves. But this is
probably
course
servants.
Yeah, it's a little taboo.
So by landing in those spaces, you could spend the elders you have plus
image
servant cards in order to get a djinn. And djinns are one of the big things in the game. Each djinn by itself is already worth points. So you could focus your gameplay on getting various djinns in order to get the different points that they are worth. They go as high as 8.
Actually, some are 10, right?
6. But what makes the djinns more interesting is the fact that they not only give you points, but each one has on the side a listed power And these powers are vital ways that affect your strategy in order to get more points.
Some powers are passive and just change benefits. For example, some upgrades the viziers to cost 2 points per vizier instead of one, or every elder costs more than instead of just 2.
Others allow you to do game-changing moves, such as claiming an unclaimed tile or suddenly sprouting a village or a city where there was once none.
I love doing that.
Usually at the cost of servants that are thrown into the fray.
Because they go join the Jinn and they're happy Jinn land. That's it. Nothing bad happens to them.
Moving back to the tribes.
Yes, so we talked about the yellows and the whites.
We then have the green tribe members, which are known as merchants. By collecting merchants, you're able to draw from a line of merchant cards, which range from goods to these are reversed.
Yeah, they're never in order. I keep trying to fix them, but
servants and the like. There are multiple types of goods available of different levels of rarity, and by collecting sets, I think there were 9. By collecting sets of these goods, one is able to score and cash in a lot of points. Having 3 goods of different types, for example, gives you 2 points at the end of the game. Sorry, 7 points at the end of the game. But having all 9 gives you a whopping 60 points.
So it's sort of like the purchasing souvenir mechanic in Tokaido, where you need to have different types of goods to get the most points. So the same thing applies here. You need to gather them as diversely as possible. But at the bottom of the cards are a number of dots that indicate the commonality of the card. So there are certain things like gems and gold that don't appear as often. And when they do, you can be sure someone's going to jump for the market.
Because sometimes you might just grab it to keep others from forming sets.
Hi, Toby.
As we all know, the Lasallians are the ones with the goods. It's the Athenians who are good as merchants when it comes to building money.
That's totally wrong. The green are the merchants, the blue are the builders.
The blue.
This analogy is not working.
The blue tribesmen are the builders. And they are builders because they pay attention to the tiles.
Oh, Mitch help. Slaves are now called fakirs.
There you go. As you can see here, there are tiles that have red score values and there are tiles that have blue score values. And as you move builders around, if you collect builders in an area with blue score value locations, you then do a little bit of math. From where that builder
game is a little bit
landed, the 9 tiles around him, including the tile you landed on, you count the number of blue numbers, then you multiply that with the number of builders
that you have collected from that final tile.
Plus any fakirs you're willing to sacrifice.
Send them to Jinland.
And that total becomes points you immediately earn.
Oh, and we didn't quite mention, because it has really come up, but points in the game are represented by money. And so everything you buy is spending victory points, essentially. And thus, when you do the builder move, you will get an influx of cash to represent the points you now have.
The last one are the red ones known as the assassins. And the assassins are an interesting stratagem in the game. First, if you clear a tile upon landing your move,
regardless of meeple color,
that tile becomes yours. So if you're able to do that on a tile which only has, let's say, the white guys, and your last move has you pick up the white guys, then that tile becomes yours and you mark it with a camel figure of your player color. The assassin allows you to claim a possible second location if you kill someone in a single tile who is all alone, because that effectively has you clear that tile on your turn. We do not, however, count clearing tiles, the starting tile where you grabbed everyone.
Yes, it's only the ending tiles are counting as cleared.
The assassins can also be used to kill off any elders
or viziers in front of players.
Other players have, affecting the vizier battle of who has the most, or affecting the stratagems of those who want to go the Jin mode. What else are we missing? The money. Yes.
Money!
A large part of what makes money very important in the game is not just because they're points. But it's because in this game, turn order is something that costs money.
More often than not.
Okay, this is a bit harder to explain, but we shall be brief. A bidding system is used for turn order. Here on the smaller side, we have the markers where players just recently ended their turns.
That's a minaret.
So
You
assuming,
dirty people. Minarets.
I'll pretend it's a minaret.
Minaret.
So, for example, pink player recently ended their turn, and then blue player will be the next one having a turn.
These are all minarets.
This means on the next turn, the pink player is the first one to bid for turn order in the next turn. And as you can see in this chart, the pink player can choose to bid 18 money. That's 18 points that they've lost. But that's because by bidding for this slot, no one can ever go before them.
Absolute first player turn.
Alternately, that person might bid 0 because they don't really want to spend points and they're not really trying to get to the board first. That means the blue player can then spend just 1
to become first player.
and that allows them to act first in the succeeding turn.
But by the same virtue, notice that there are multiple zeros. So if you are the next person to bid 0, you actually push the next player further down the line. So in this case, the blue player wouldn't even have to spend 1. He would just spend 0 and push.
And that means
pink.
blue player becomes the first, and then
Pink
pink player becomes second. And this interesting bidding mechanic when it comes to initiative
is where Toby does the most math in the game.
is amazing, because when you see someone suddenly bid 8 money, the first thing you do is look at the board and see what move did he see, right, that earns him more than 8 points. What? Hey, I normally bid 0.
No.
I rarely bid for initiative.
Yeah, but then when you bid high, I know it's like, oh crap. Then that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm staring at the board like, what move did Toby see? So I'm going to have to deny him because that's my job as his partner, to deny him victory.
As mentioned, the game has wooden camels, and these camels are what you use to mark tiles when they are under your ownership. But there are also additional figures. The villages.
Which I keep saying palaces, but then they're villages.
And the palm trees.
Yeah.
And these are worth extra points at the end of the game because certain tiles, upon landing, trigger the placement of such figures. And the placement does not mean points to the person who triggered it. It means points to whoever owns the tile.
So in the early game, it's very possible that suddenly palm trees and villages, whatever, keep appearing on the board, but nobody owns the tiles yet. And then Toby starts assassinating people because he wants to get those tiles.
Why is it always in reference to me?
Obviously, it's not me.
So that, in brief, is the base game. As you'll notice, for a simple game, you have a very, very happy box because the box itself has been crafted for storage.
Minarets!
You see, everything fits in nicely. You have a generous helping of score pads. So we love to use them.
And it slots in
perfectly to lock the cards in and keep them from moving around. You have a double-sided player guide in case you forget the rules.
And enough for all players.
And you have even the guide for every djinn so you can see their powers without worrying about it.
Because, okay, as much as the djinns all have symbols, I mean, it takes a while for everybody to understand what the symbols mean. So that's fine.
The base game by itself is already amazing.
And, okay, in our experience, because some will ask, like, so okay, it looks kind of complicated. There are a lot of moving pieces. But it's actually not a super difficult game. Once you have a basic grasp of the different tribes and their powers, I'll admit it's not a gateway game. It's not the first game you play in a night, but it is certainly a game that even a new player will be able to play before the night is over. That's how I feel about 5 Tribes.
Andre's asking for tips in a bit because we still have expansions to talk about. And no, I'm not showing you 2. We're actually showing 3. because one of them was a mini expansion and it's already inside one of the boxes.
Yeah.
So let's start with what?
The Artisans is officially the first
Sorry,
expansion.
we're showing 4.
Oh,
3.
because there's the
Thieves.
yeah, I think there's
3.
three.
Just make sure.
Artisans first. So
Alright.
the Artisans of Nakala. The Artisans of Nakala, more than anything else, allows 5 players to play. Or was it this? No, it was this, right?
Yeah.
And thus, finally, 5 players, 5 tribes.
Notice that the Artisans also still includes guide boards, which are nice
Super
material.
generous.
Because they know people who play this probably are playing it a lot. More scoreboard.
But it's also a new score pad specific to the expansion because it has an additional row for the new tribe.
And then we have the new tribe.
The Artisans of Nakala. Each purple.
Artisans are also mixed in with the bag of meeples. And this triggers a new thing in the game.
We have a few new gins that take advantage of the Artisans. And a few new tiles. Oh, that's a scary first tile to show.
Yeah. But the Artisans basically trigger the ability to craft these works of art or these artifacts. And these allow you points at the end of the game. The Artisans also introduce new tiles from mountainous... Oh, that's not visible. There. Mountainous regions. Because these now block movement.
Movement of your meeple hand. I mean, I don't exactly fully understand the logic of it, but I mean, just go with it. So if there are mountains on the border of the tile, like so, then you cannot sungka over the mountain.
You'll have to go around it.
There
are workshops, which are pretty nice tent-like places. There. Oh my god, the black one can't be seen. Yeah, there. And last but not the least, which was what Rocky got chopped in showing, you have the Chasm. The Chasm is now a new place on the board. Nothing can land in it. Nothing can go over it.
It's terrible.
It forces you to go around it, which is painful during a game.
Note that there are additional base tiles, which means, yes, the board gets bigger than the base game.
At the base game, the board was a...
I think it's a 30-tile grid, 5x6.
But as you can see, with this
It becomes like a 6x6.
the grid even becomes bigger.
He's painful. The mountains alone are annoying. I mean, when you play the Artisans, it just blocks you. And then trying to get to the darn Artisan location is tricky. Admittedly, I'm not the best player when Artisans gets involved. It's quite complicated.
A mini expansion that we keep in the same box are the Thieves of Nakala. The Thieves basically introduce small cards to the game. These cards...
They're gin-sized.
Yeah. There. These cards include a new gin as well as the Thieves cards. And the system is quite simple. When a gin is purchased, there are corresponding possible thieves that can be purchased instead of the gin. And if the thief is purchased instead, everyone loses certain things. And the person who triggered the thief can claim something from the things that were discarded. So for example, if it was the green thief that was triggered, everyone has to discard 2 market cards, and then the person who triggered this can choose 2 of the market cards from all the discarded ones.
Because they're thieves.
Of course, there are, however, ways to prevent the thieves from doing that, and that is through the Jin Morgaine, who keeps thieves from affecting you. That is Thieves of Nakala, done very quickly, rarely played, because admittedly, we're fine not having this type of direct confrontation.
I mean, it's enough to be like, wait, Toby bid really high. Let's stare at the board. Let's stare at the board stage.
Or like assassin moves. We're fine.
Assassins are like, I mean, and I think people typically assassinate to claim tiles. At most, I do see the occasional assassin to kill viziers, only if you are like really competing for who has the most viziers.
Finally, our third expansion is the Whims of the Sultan. Would you like to take this?
I don't remember.
Okay, I got it. Whims of the Sultan, as earlier,
I think I'll remember once I
has
say it.
a new guide card because it introduces 2 new djinns, it introduces 3 new land tiles, and it adds the Whims of the Sultan cards.
Oh, this is the orders.
The Whims of the Sultan cards are sort of like, think, what's this? Achievements. And by achieving these achievements, you find a way to get more points. A new scoreboard.
There's always a new score
Because
pad.
again, it has to correspond to giving the system intact. Interestingly, I think they also still have the way the others intact in the system in the sense of artisans and
And it
See? It's
supports
there.
it supports artisans in this pad. So like there's artisans and all the other stuff, which is cool.
The Whims of the Sultan introduces a new set because it's for the new player.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is the 5th player game.
And then you have the new tiles which offer ways to get whims and lots of points. You have the new djinns which allow you to affect turn order.
And look at there's a new turn order bid thingamabob
Because it now accommodates.
yeah,
the
when you
5th
play
player.
with 5 players, suddenly there are so many multiple bid spaces. It is so cool. So then you can have multiple people bidding for one and wasting their money. Oh my gosh.
The new tiles as well introduce the cities. They're the ones that allow you to get whims, but if you look at them, they're pretty awesome looking tiles as well compared to the normal land tiles.
Multi-point perspective. I don't know. Actually,
And then,
it's not one.
If I remember, there is also a corresponding value that you get depending on the colors. of the
Yeah,
cities.
I know. Depending on when you get them.
And then, of course, you have I think this is the Oasis.
Because well, not the Oasis. That Oasis from the base game.
Yeah. But basically, you have double points for palm trees and villages.
Around it.
Yes.
That's why they're arrows.
So
Yes, I remember now.
this expansion is all about things now being worth so much more points.
On the
I
whole,
don't remember how this goes in.
it was on top. It wasn't. It wasn't super clean.
Yeah. Okay. There. So that is our collection of 5 tribes with the 4 expansions.
Dare I ask?
Three,
Are there
with the 3
more?
expansions.
You want to double check
Looking quickly at
or just
the
promo
website,
cards?
I had it open earlier. I must have closed it by accident. Let me open it right now, real quick. There are other language expansions. So there's the Galbels, which I'm not sure what it is. There's the Thieves of the Kala Artisans, which we have. There's the Wilwit. There's the Denim. I think they released certain
Jin.
as
Promo.
standalone promo expansions, but that's pretty much it right now.
Yeah. So 5 tribes. Base game alone, pretty awesome. Expansions are fun, but then sometimes I worry about the complexity creep as more expansions are added. We have played one full game. I know we played at least one game with both Artisans and Whims of the Sultan.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's a bit much. We tend to play one expansion at a time, but then just going back to the base game is totally fine. So if you decide to add 5 tribes to your collection, it's not bad to just get the base game and stay there and embrace that because it's a pretty solid experience.
The game works well for 2 players just as well as it does for 3 or 4 players. I don't think we played 5 yet.
Yeah, but then I always worry about 4-player games that stretch to 5 because then it bloats time and everything. And the fact that they had to create all these double bid spots, it tells you that it adds a lot to the game.
The game is quite deep in the sense that we've had players who've won strictly by just focusing on merchants and the goods. We've had players who totally ignored the goods and focused on territories and won as well. And we've even had players who focus on the djinns, barely got locations, barely got goods, but then with all the djinn points, scored terrifyingly high.
I think my more recent wins that were super awesome was that I did a super money win. I kept doing builders because there's a huge blue area and I took advantage of it. And then another thing I tend to like doing, and Toby always spots me once I do it, is I get either the djinn that lets me purchase palm trees or the djinn that lets me purchase cities. And then once I get it, I start burning fakirs like mad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll have the one tile that has like 10 cities on it. It's like, hi. So things like that.
Now, you might be wondering, when does the game end? The game ends once there are no longer any valid moves, which can be tricky for first-time players. But the safest thing to say is if you realize they can't seem to do anything anymore, then the game has ended.
This normally results in all of us looking at the board this way, trying to figure out, no.
But as you get more accustomed to the game, you will find yourself realizing like 5 turns away, sometimes or 4 turns away. I don't think this will have another round.
I feel this is more Toby thing. I have never felt like I had 3 turns left. I can always feel like, ooh, we're running out. I don't count the number of them. The other thing is if someone finishes all their camels, that's the easier end game trigger.
That is
the standard game gives you 8 camels. So once you purchase 8 tiles of the 30 tile board, that's it. So the game's going to end that round.
So let's talk about tactics.
Specialize. I mean, you're going to have to focus on something that makes sense. But even when you're specializing, don't ignore everything else. Like, it's not, especially things like, it's good to have at least 1 vizier. Get in the vizier game.
Because that's 10 points at
least.
Because
that you could potentially get 10 points over another player.
Or you at least prevent someone from getting 10 points.
Yes. And then, also, it's never bad to, like, gamble on market a bit. I mean, like, sometimes because there's a difference between the power of the tile that you land on versus the meeples that you get, and we haven't quite discussed all the tile abilities, which is fine. So sometimes you will end up moving the merchant meeples, the green ones, and it gives you X number of cards from the merchant row. Take it, just take it, and start building a bit of a market tableau. Because even just getting 3 unique market cards, it's a good return on investment.
Don't forget that market cards can be sold within the game in order to generate coins instantly in case you need that sudden boost for turn order.
Yeah.
Other tips, if you're new to the game, do a small trick we do, wherein all the meeples are lying flat. But then as you do your move, place them down standing. So in case you need to go back and try a different approach because you realize you're doing it wrong, then you can easily identify which ones you were putting down.
See, it's Sungka that lets you retcon your move.
Also, do not be afraid to study every djinn when it's not your turn.
Oh, yes. Because you'll only have 3 djinns visible at any time.
And it's very, very telling that if you ignore the djinns, most likely someone might grab it at a time when you might have needed it.
And note that the djinns are not replenished every turn. So if nobody buys the djinns, they're going to stay there until someone buys one of them. So you might as well take the time to understand their power and think about, can I build a strategy around it? The fact that the whole back of the reference thing is all djinns, it's a lot of reading, I will admit. But djinns have such awesome abilities. There are ones that every time someone assassinates another player's another meeple, you get money. I don't know why. You have an assassination tax. Or there are others that let you discard every 2 fakirs can count as a market good at the end of the turn.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff.
Don't forget that when you land your last meeple, you collect all meeples of that color on that tile. That means any tile with more than 1 meeple of a single color, you should always at least pay attention to see if it's worth grabbing that moment. For builders, that's a lot of money. For merchants, that's a lot of goods.
Merchant cards, yeah.
For elders, that's more chances to call djinns later. For viziers, that's the 10-point leads for every player you have less of. For assassins, it might not seem much because the only benefit you get from multiple assassins when you grab them is it allows you to target further tiles. But you'll be surprised when those moments come, especially when a tile with the most points, and I think the most is 12,
12. Oh, no, there aren't there
16.
15,
Yeah.
16s, the blue ones? Yeah.
Might have just one person, and that assassin might be the perfect chance to grab that tile. Try to find moves that allow you to grab 2 location tiles. The tile that you cleared and an area you assassinated to clear as well. And lastly, when you move, know that you are seeding for later turns. So if you have tiles that benefit from palm trees or villages, then make sure you seed them with meeples that other players might want to land on in order to trigger that by accident.
I notice a common mistake by early 5 Tribes players is that when they're laying out the meeples, there is a tendency to only place meeples where there are meeples. There's that weird, like, you're scared to put on the empty tiles.
Or you might think you're not supposed to.
Yeah, no, please. It's a valid move because by spreading out the meeples, you're creating new moves for future turns and hopefully a chance to come back. So yes, especially when you have the palm tree thing or the village, make sure that you double back, especially if you own the tile already, so that people will be forced to possibly land on your tile.
And then keep in mind that when you grab all the meeples, you clear that tile and it's not a tile that you benefit from. However, if you do that often enough, you can sort of block out a player's tile from being something others will go to.
Unless you get that gin that that you claim unowned tiles, it's like, oh my god, and then Toby's claiming tiles in the city. Oh, and then to be totally Toby about things is that when you're thinking about your starting bid, always compare it to the amount of points you think you're going to earn for that turn. So you gotta math it. You can spend a bit more, but don't like always spend equal to the points you're gonna earn. Then you're not really achieving. And there are like, I mean, like any game where there are bids and stuff, it feels like poker. You will need to bluff players out. And like, sometimes I do high bids to scare them just so that I can move, even though I don't really have a move. It's like, but you know, sometimes it disrupts people's play. And especially if you're doing like bids of 3, 5, and 8, then it kind of gets people to like, what did he see? What did he see? And then suddenly they'll bid 8. They'll bid higher, which forces them to spend more money. Thus, they lose more points.
And I guess my last tip is that 5 Tribes is all about the numbers. Because when you grab a handful of the meeples in one location, that number of meeples is the number of steps you must move without backtracking or stepping over a step you've already done that moment.
And you can only move orthogonally, so you cannot go diagonal. It is like the dragon in Carcassonne, Princess and Dragon.
So being the first to move not just means you get to go to the spot you want, but if you seed meeples on the right spots where you anticipate that others will move, you ruin their plans.
Yes.
Because suddenly, if they were planning to move 4 steps, but by just passing over it, you added 1 more meeple, they now can't land where they wanted to.
This is just confirmation that Toby does this. You know, I mean, I always suspected.
I see Rocky do it.
I don't intentionally do it. I just want to do my move and seed my tiles.
So let's check out the comments for any other questions.
Mitch reiterates the tip about you know, laying out the meeples, and then yeah, when you play it, it's gonna keep them standing, so that always works. Noel says it sounds interesting, although he joined in late, but thanks for joining.
But definitely, Noel, I think if you've ever enjoyed playing Songka, you will find this game surprisingly familiar.
What? Mitch is like, I like the sound effects, Rocky, when thinking of moves. What? I don't have sound effects. What are you talking about? I don't play music just for thinking of moves.
No, you make sound effects.
I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. I always feel like builders get underestimated because it feels like such a corny move, and then it's hard to like find clusters of blue, but then it's money, and then I think it's only when I got that one game that the money super made sense, and so that super works. Oh, flash fact: when you buy the expansions, is that in the corner of the main expansions, there's a number which indicates which expansion it is. And therefore, the Whims of the Sultan is number 2. I don't know if this means more. What about the thieves? They don't get a number. But it annoys me. It's like, oh my god, there's a 1 and a 2. But in the base game, no number. It's 0.
And it's color coded, no?
Yeah.
So this is red. Whims is
purple.
green.
Yeah.
Thieves. Oh, Thieves just has a dagger but no number.
But it's also red because it's also Nakala. That's why we stick them together, because Nakala. Friends.
So hopefully that means they'll be releasing expansions inspired by the other tribes, hence the names.
Maybe.
So red is Nakala, and that's where the artisans are, and the assassins. The Sultan lives in green.
Merchant.
So maybe there will be a blue expansion that has to do with upgrading buildings. Maybe there will be a white expansion that allows you to, I don't know, transmute Jinn. Maybe there's a yellow
Become
expansion.
a genie.
And maybe in that yellow expansion, it becomes something like, oh man, I can't remember the name of the game. Citadels, where suddenly, if you're the leading player, they have to greet you or you get money or something. I don't know.
But I feel like, Five Tribes is like, at this point, solid game. We don't get to play the expansions as much. The base game still gets the most play. Toby turns it the weird way. Okay. So yeah, you can get away with not buying the expansions if you want. And then what else? Oh, and also if you just like meeples, if you just like owning a lot of wooden meeples, this game is one of our games that has the most meeples ever because of the fact that you have the 5 tribes and enough to populate. It starts with how many per tile? 3? 4.
Yes,
3 per tile. So that's 90 meeples.
I think the next one that has that number of meeples would be Carcassonne.
Not even.
But it's 7 per player.
Times 5. It's not. It's
close.
It doesn't scale as much. Carcassonne is more unique stuff. You probably get a lot of like you own Rampage or what did they change it? It used to be Rampage.
Meeple City.
Yeah, Meeple City or something. So which is that one where you have these towers built by meeples and then they're destroyed by kaiju.
There, Mitch, clarify the sound.
The sound of thinking of moves. Dun 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 dun. Mitch, I don't know. I think you're going to have to send me an audio clip. It's not the Jeopardy theme, right? Do I Jeopardy theme people? I don't think I Jeopardy theme. Anyway, 5 tribes. Oh, did we quack already?
Yes.
Okay, I missed the quack.
So that is 5 tribes. It's not necessarily a favorite, but one we don't shy away from playing. It's heavy enough that it feels nicely deep for people who might be new to board games, but not too heavy that they'll feel they'll get lost. And lastly, it's one of those games where you feel you bought something that has a lot of nice pieces.
That is true, though. I mean, it's a Days of Wonder game. The quality of the game components is beautiful. And I will point out one other thing, which is only a recent discovery. As you play more digital games and you navigate, we had an episode where you navigate the complicated world of online accounts. Note that as a Days of Wonder game, at the back of the manual, there is a little code at the end, like a serial number. So if you want to register their game as part of your this is your Asmodee account because it's under Days of Wonder, you need the manual, and it's at the back. It's weird. You cannot track expansions. It is just for the base game. Obviously, I did it. So,
but it allows you to say that your account owns this game.
Yeah, that's it. It has no other benefit. It has a list of all their Days of Wonder board games in black and white, and once you put in the code, it becomes colored. But yeah, the quality of components throughout all of the 5 tribe games is beautiful. Just the camels alone, I'm just super happy, and of course the minarets. Yes.
There was supposed to be an upcoming app, but I don't know if it ever came out. Well, here it says release date 2022 now.
Oh, they're still working on
So
it.
yeah, so they're still working on
I
it.
can't imagine. And then, like, how will you do the sungka moment?
I guess you'll have to choose with each move what you're dropping.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh, complicated.
Yeah, but early mentions of the app was to 2017, so it kind of shows you they're having some trouble finding a way to make it work well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and this is a game that because of the whole sungka sewing mechanism, it's so physical. I mean, like there's a very tactile component to playing this game, and I think that's why we also like it for sort of new to mid-range player board game nights because it's a game that just shows well.
Mhm.
And it's a game that, yeah, like Mitch says, the components are lovely. It feels like, ooh, this is something different. This is not Monopoly. This is not Snakes and Ladders. Tan, tan, tan.
Yes. So, mid shares, components are lovely, the compartments are lovely, and it's a fun game. So yeah, so I guess that's our 5 Tribes episode.
Yeah, we've said this a few times. I'm trying to think of anything else.
I don't know if this will have a collector's edition. I feel it's too soon for it to have one. I would love to see more expansions come out, but I don't know if that will happen anytime soon because I know the game did have a lot of flack given it used to have slaves in its card mechanic. So I guess we will just have to wait and see if more will come out. But that's all the time we have for this episode. We had a lot of fun, and we hope you'll join us again next time.
If you have questions or suggestions for future episodes, fill out the Google form at bit.ly, Baduy Pride, Ideas. Remember that every Monday, we try to talk about a new board game to just help everybody get more familiar in case you want to explore the hobby. You can follow us on Twitter, AltoBinoShade, RG Sunico.
You could also check out our blog, baduypride.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below and let us know what you thought about the game. Do you want a camel? And what is your favorite meeple? Mitch was asking what our favorite meeple was. I don't necessarily have a favorite. Toby likes the assassin.
No, I don't. They're just useful.
Be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride. Good night, everyone.